So, Lone Rider here, and I want to talk about the Purple Heart Armory feather, a feather sword or feather sword, as they're called, is the traditional practice weapon for longsword. It's more or less what they used in medieval times, and it's what we use today. And there's a variety of these on the market from makers like Peter Regnier, Ensifer, you name it, Dark Sword Armory, Castile Armory, etc. A variety of makers all over the world, and a variety of price ranges as well, to be fair. And this is one of the more budget offerings. Purple Heart Armory is a vendor or supplier of practice equipment and stuff like that for historical swordsmanship. They're based, I believe, in Texas. And they sell a variety of these things, as well as practice daggers and synthetic swords as well, it must be said. And this particular one is their VB fetter. Victor, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name. It would be discourteous. He's from the Czech Republic, and if you go on their website, you can find the full spelling of the name. But this is their one of their budget offerings, and they make several different versions. This is the more robust version, so it's a little stiffer. It does have a substantial amount of flex in the blade, but it is a little stiffer, and the flex isn't as confined to the last third of the blade. It's also slightly heavier, like 5 ounces heavier or something. So this is just my first impressions. I haven't gotten down to the fencing club with this yet. I can't really do a review of it until after that's taken place, obviously, because it's unfair to review something that hasn't been used. I mean, I've swung it around, I've practiced with it solo, I've hit a pel, but I have yet to try and fence with it or drill or anything. So after I get down there, I'll do more of a full review. But just my initial impressions. I have handled other fetters. I've handled Regnier's, Ensifers, Castile Armories. I handled another version of this VB fetter that had a ring hilt. I've handled Meyer, Albion Meyer swords as well. And in particular, in terms of swords that I've actually practiced with, drilling and fencing, I've practiced with borrowed Regnier's. I've practiced with the Albion Meyer, and I practiced with the Castile Armory fetter as well, that were borrowed. This is the first fetter that I've owned. Up until this, I've been using a blunt bastard sword. Anyway, with my limited experience with other swords, I can tell you this is a little more blade heavy, and it is a little more, it's not as light. You can use it with one hand. Not a problem, but it is heavier. As far as the rest of it goes, the crossguard seems to be a little bit longer. This is a nearly 11-inch crossguard. It's like literally a fraction of an inch, under 11 inches from tip to tip. I can't do it in here because of the ceiling, but if you were to spin the sword in one hand, which of course you don't normally do Milanese with a longsword, but if you were to do that, it would catch on the arm. Now there's a reason that the crossguard is long. The crossguard protects your hands by angulation. It's this angle here that accomplishes that. So the longer the grip is, the longer the crossguard has to be to protect your lowermost hand. Now the crossguard, like I said, is literally a hair under 11 inches. The grip from the bottom of the crossguard to the end of the pommel, so including the pommel, the whole length of the grip is 12.5 inches. So, we have that. It's nicely put together. It's a threaded construction, but they have an interesting feature on this. You can see that little hex nut there. The whole pommel itself threads on, and then there's this recessed hex nut. I believe it's a 5mm hex nut that acts as a lock nut to keep it from getting looser on threading. Nice little touch there. And then the grip, there's a wood core under this leather, and it fits into a little recess in the end of the pommel and in the end of this bolster, which is attached to the crossguard. I haven't seen any problems with this in terms of fit and finish. The only one thing I did notice is there's a slight dent I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this. There's a slight dent right there underneath the crossguard where the bolster is attached. It's just a little dimple. Structurally shouldn't be a problem. If this was like a display sword or something, or a collector's item, I'd be kind of pissed since it's brand new. It was there when I got it. The reality is this is for practice. It's going to get dinged up, so I personally don't care. And as far as the proportions go, let's talk about the blade. The blade is 39 inches, so it's the same length as a Reginier, and you have a rolled tip on there. You can see that, rolled tip. Point of balance is just past the shield, which, like I said, it's a little more blade heavy than some. Usually they balance right at the end of the shield. This is slightly further out, but like I said, it is the stiffer version. They made one original version, then they made this version, and then they made a version C, which is a little more flexible. But I don't see this as being a problem. Like I said, somebody at the fencing club's already using one, and a ring-hilted version. And being a robust sword, maybe it will resist some abuse. Swords do break eventually, especially if they're used hard. And being a beginner, this was a gift, for an early Christmas gift, but I don't have the money to get a second sword if it breaks. So getting one that's slightly more robust, it might not be as nimble in the hand, but it definitely is sturdy enough. There is flex in the blade. You have a rolled tip. You have nice wide edges, so it's not going to get chewed up as much, hopefully. You do have that protective shield, which keeps, strikes away from the guard so they don't hit the back of your hand. And also, since the blade is much thinner than a real longsword, provides something that's a little wider to put your thumb behind. A lot of I got to watch the walls here and stuff, but a lot of the reverse edge cuts, you're pivoting around your thumb like that. And if you see how narrow the blade is, barely wider than your thumb, that's not very safe. Having this flared ricasso, what's called the shield, does provide a place to put your thumb, so that when you do the false edge cuts, your thumb is a little protected. So there you go, my initial impressions. The fit and finish on this is pretty darn good. Like I said, there's that little ding there. Who knows, maybe that occurred in shipping. It is shipped disassembled, so you have to put the crossguard on, put the grip on, and then put the pommel on. At least this one was shipped disassembled. I saw an unboxing video where somebody unboxed a VB Fetter, and it was like 2 of them in a box, and they already had the crossguards on. But like I said, I ordered one. It came from Purple Heart Armory very quickly and very efficiently. Props to Purple Heart Armory. You did a great job. But it did arrive, disassembled, and I had to put it together, which I guess makes sense. I mean, if you have the crossguard on there, the box is going to be bigger. And it was a tight fit. I had to sort of jam everything on. So there you go. My initial impressions of the sword. It's pretty darn awesome. I like it. Can't wait to start using it. Like I said, I'll do a follow-up once I've actually taken it to the fencing club and see how it goes. Lone Rider out.